Welcome to the Duqm Now podcast. I'm Dr Aisha Al Sarihi, and today we'll be diving into the world of circular economy, what that means and what that means for Duqm and Oman as a whole. And with us to dive in, we have two names that are synonymous with circular economy here in the Sultanate of Oman. Two people leading the charge. Dr Aisha Al Sarihi, who is an economic expert at the Ministry of Economy, who has done extensive research that's been published locally and internationally about circular economy, environment, and more. We also have Dr Mohab Al Hinai, who is the Vice President of BIA and the Oman Environmental Services Holding Company here in the Sultanate. And he, of course, has quite the background in circular economy, environment, and sustainability. Welcome to you both. Thank you for being part of this with us today.
Established by the government, Development Bank has been a steadfast partner to Oman's business community since 1976. We offer a suite of tailored financial products and services designed to support the development of a fairer, more sustainable economy, empowering Omani businesses at every stage. For startups seeking seed capital or established enterprises looking for growth financing, Development Bank is here to support every ambition.
So we'll start at very basic. What is circular economy? Dr. Mohab?
So circular economy is basically an economic guiding principles. You know, right now the world's economy is a linear economy, which is basically extract raw material, make, use, and dispose. And more than 90% of the global economy is a linear economy with more than 100 billion tons of raw material going into the global economy every year. And 40% or more than 40% is wasted either as solid waste or emissions, and now less than 7% is reused or recycled. Obviously, this is not sustainable. The circular economy model, which is really not a new concept, you know, our fathers and grandfathers a long time ago have lived in harmony with their surrounding environment. However, as civilization advanced, people became a little bit more complacent, and they started using resources without any regard for the future generations. So circular economy tries to, bring back the natural way, of doing business, which is basically how you design. It starts from the way you design your product, okay? You need to design it in a sustainable way that it lasts longer using recycled or upcycled material. How you manufacture it, how you distribute it, at the end, once it gets into the consumer's hands, how easy it is to repair, how durable it is. But then eventually, in a few years, once it reaches the end of its life, the way you designed it to be easy to disassemble into its primary components that can then go back into the manufacturing cycle. So you don't have to go back to extract virgin raw material from nature, but rather you can now extract these material from existing products. So this achieves two things. You are using less raw material, but you're also generating less waste. And so this is guiding principles of circular economy.
Dr. Aisha, could you expand more on why it's taking so long for the world and for Oman to move from circular economy as a theory to actually it being in practice?
I think one of the main things why circular economy didn't kick off very quickly, because the extraction of the material is more cheaper, and normally like the circulated material is normally like more expensive than the raw material. So this is one of the reasons. But the other thing is the awareness and the realization of the value that is included in the secondary material that can be repurposed, reused, or recycled. Now, when we talk about circular economy, actually, in a simple terms, the byproducts of one industry, of one operation, can have really a value and have some economic value in it that can be an input for another industry. And this is something that is being realized, honestly, in other industries like the petrochemicals and the refineries. They do understand that there is an economic value in the products, and there is a wasted economic opportunity cost if they don't deal with the material. So it would be so expensive if I have some material or some waste and then I don't recycle it. It would be more expensive than I can recycle it or use it for another industry. I can give an example of the refining, the sulfur. Before the sulfur is produced, there's an H2S that comes from the refining. But then with cracking and with the use of the hydrogen, the sulfur can be released and then it becomes a material that can be exported. It is useful for agriculture as a fertilizer. But not dealing with it, it can have harmful impact on the environment, but also wasted economic opportunity.
So we see where the value is of this, of course. But how are we reaching that value? Where are we at in Oman right now when it comes to circular economy?
At the moment, there are a lot of opportunities for the circularity intervention, but these opportunities are not realized. We do have the building and infrastructure. Oman is building very quickly housing infrastructure. And then there is the material that remains after the building. Now that material has, the cement, the steel, the iron that can be reused or repurposed again or recycled for other uses. Maybe it can be reused for the building itself. And I think we tend to import these recycled material from outside Oman. So here we are actually we have an economic value that we are not looking at, but we are importing it with extra cost. So this is one of the examples. Then there is other examples like the water. Water is the major important resource that we need to pay attention to. First of all, when we speak about circular economy, we talk about the efficient use of the resources. So water, it should be number one, the resource that we should use efficiently because we have a scarcity of water resources in Oman and we depend on desalination for water production. But then also our practices or behavior need to be changed. But what I want also maybe to add, in Oman also we have the young population, we have the shift towards the digital economy. All of these, and also the expansion in the industry and the development. Everyone, if we look really around us, there are a lot of opportunities. We have the consumption behavior of the material, but at the same time, we don't have second-hand use of the material as a practice in Oman. For example, clothes or furniture. Why don't we have that, and why don't we put a value on that? This is some of the practices that is really normal, like in places like the UK or the US. But if we really look around, and for the young people, it is an opportunity, really. There is an economic value, a business value in it, and also there are jobs, and the digital economy could support in really connecting the dots, connecting the companies, for example, the supplier, the consumer through those apps.
Mohab, where would you see the easiest opportunities to jump into circular economy, let's say here in Duqm?
Okay, so let me just, she mentioned the resources and the youth. So before I answer your question, so this year the Earth Overshoot Day falls sometime in July. I think it's end of July. What the Earth Overshoot Day is basically the time of the year where humanity has consumed more resources than what nature can produce in that same year. Meaning that we consumed our share of resources that should have lasted us for a whole year. We've consumed them sometime in July. That means that we have used, for example, 10 years worth of raw material in 5. Instead of 10, we use it in 5. And I was on a panel recently, and there was older professor there, and he was very passionate about it. And he was like, at the rate we're doing now, we are stealing from our kids, from our grandkids. And if you take a step back and think about it, this is exactly what we're doing, After we're gone, we're gonna, leave our kids and grandkids a big mess at this rate, and they will not have the same luxuries, the same raw material that we had. What that means is there's no economic prosperity because there's no raw material, no jobs, the way of living is going to change. Now, back to your question about Duqm. Obviously, Duqm has an opportunity because it's a fresh start. That's how I like to think of it, right? It's a special economic zone. They have their own set of priorities, their own set of rules, and they are trying to attract investors, into Duqm. Now, circular economy, according to Alan MacArthur, can generate $4 trillion worth of economic opportunity by 2030, 18 million jobs. So these are things that are very important, not just to Oman, but everybody around the world. And we need to get a slice of that, a piece of that cake. And Duqm has an opportunity here. So, for example, construction and demolition waste. It is one of the success stories in Europe. Almost 90% of the construction and demolition waste in Europe is upcycled back into raw material that is used in the manufacturing industry. If we attract, renewable energy investments here in Duqm, it will help, Oman be powered by the solar, by the wind, and this will help attract investors. It will help lowering the rate of raw material extraction, but also create economic value here.
With Duqm, it's the strategic location of Duqm really helps when it comes to manufacturing or repurposing the material in Duqm, but also because it is a port, it can be exported very easily. It is different because if the same material is produced and manufactured in a different location in Oman, maybe there will be a cost of transmission or transportation of this material to the port. And there are a lot of opportunities for Duqm. And because it is a new emerging area, it has the opportunity to really take the lessons from other practices and start where the market is today. So one of the things, like we know, like flaring is not a good practice. So this is one of the things that the Duqm can deal with. Now we know the market today is in a position where we deal with a low carbon economy practices. So the manufacturing should start dealing with those, new environmental standards like the ESG, the carbon border adjustment mechanisms, or what is coming from Europe, the product passport. So we should, I think it's really a big opportunity for Duqm to start where the market is today.
How would you go about convincing people to actually take an active role in bringing circular economy to light, whether policymakers or individuals or, of course, private entities and organizations? What's the first step here?
The thing is, if we look really around us, there's a lot of opportunities for circular economy intervention or to create a business out of it. We spoke about building, demolishing. I spoke about the furniture, the clothes as an example. But also when it comes maybe to food, dealing with the food waste, there are also opportunities. One idea is creating the compost from the food waste. Coffee. Now we have a lot of coffee shops around the country. The compost from the coffee residues is one idea. And then, because I am from the government, we can create the enabling, really, environment for that. One idea is actually to create certificates. For example, any project that contribute to reducing greenhouse gas emissions can be certificated, so that product is, having a market.
As someone from government, What would you say is the best way to go about this? Make one big strong law or many steps and laws right here and there?
No, I would say many steps, not really one goal. Circular economy is a journey. It has many dimensions to it. The first dimension is the awareness and the know that there is not only environmental aspect of circular economy, but also an economic aspect of circular economy. And this kind of awareness should be done not only at the population level, but also at the existing industries. So people need to understand what is the economic value of circular economy in my industry. How is it going to affect my business model? Many people would think about like the high cost of the circular economy. So awareness is number one. I think the other thing, the second thing, is to support the innovation and creativity around the circular economy. And this is mostly happens through the young people. Now, circular economy, sometimes like we know that there is a material that we need to deal with, but we don't know how to do it. Or somebody has an idea, but they don't have the supportive environment for their idea to be like explored through the lab or so. So as a government, I would focus on supporting the innovation, maybe as a second step, and the young people. And then the third thing is the regulations and the policies. Maybe this will come later on. The regulations and policies when it comes to circular economy is how to bring the supply and the demand of the material into the market. This is what is the most important for the investor. When the investor comes, they need to make sure that there is a supply for the material, but there is a buyer for my material. So this is our role, where we can figure out the right policies to ensure that there's a connectivity of the supply chain in the market.
Thank you, Aisha. Mohab, if you could expand further and delve deeper into how we can shift mindsets here in the Sultanate of Oman towards a better future with circular economy, how would you go about it, and what is being done right now?
Right. So at the heart of it, I think moving to a circular economy is a mindset shift. And at the heart or at the core of the circular economy principles is sourcing locally. You want to have local content in whatever product you buy, whether it's food, electronics, furniture, what have you. And this is where I think, back to the previous point about how the Duqm economic zone, what role it can play. Obviously, it can provide industries and manufacturing a local hub to start sourcing locally. And for example, we can have, Omani products, for example. We always say, you always see that Oman tick, made in Oman, but how much local content is in it? So I think we can maybe start putting, or producers can put, 10% local content, 20%, 30% local content, and let the consumer decide which product do they want to buy. And by nature, a lot of people will want to buy the locally sourced product because it supports the local economy, local job growth and job creations. And just to simplify, we have a problem, not just in Oman, but in the GCC, of food waste, right? Now you might think an apple, for example, you have an apple in your hand and you toss it, or it expires, you stored it improperly. How much material, raw material, or resources went into bringing that single apple that might cost 200 beza, 300 beza to your table? Well, it can take between 70 to 200 liters, depending where the apple was grown, of water for that single apple to be grown. Then how much energy? You're probably importing the apples from Europe or Latin America. How much energy was used to bring that apple, import that apple to you here in Oman? Right? How much energy to distribute it, to store it until you finally come and buy it. You're not wasting, a 200 base apple. You're wasting hundreds of dollars or of reals worth of material that went upstream of bringing this apple to you. So awareness is very important, and that's why at BIA we're really looking throughout the value chain, in terms of, the public and the consumers. So we work even with the Ministry of Education. We help them develop local curriculum, public school curriculum that is now implemented in almost 200 schools, grades 1 to 4, about circular economy, about sustainability. Why are we doing this? We are planting the seed, These school kids, 10, 15, 20 years from now, they will be sitting where me and Aisha are sitting right now. They'll be making these decisions, right? And so we're also working with the university students, innovation is at the heart of circular economy. And we work with academia, with researchers to come up with, out-of-the-box solutions to move towards a more circular economy. We're also working with policymakers, and I think Dr. Aisha maybe you can elaborate more on I think it's the first in the Middle East, the Circularity Gap Report, the framework for Oman, how circular Oman's economy is. So we're really taking a, all-out approach to spread the word about circular economy. And again, it has economic value. If you're in the boardroom or if you're in the, at school, your bottom line, if you're in the boardroom, your bottom line is going to be affected because the consumers are demanding more circular products, more responsible production, and responsible consumption.
Aisha, from a policy perspective, what is the best way to shift the mindsets of organizations in the private sector?
If I go back to Mohab point first before I answer this question, if that's okay. Yes, actually one of the things and one of the projects that we work on in the ministry is to provide a data-driven policy guidance. So actually one of the first things that when it comes to the circular economy is the data. You cannot measure it, if you cannot manage it if you cannot measure it. So what we are trying to do is really to have statistics of the amount of the material that flows through the economy, and through that we can classify which are the sectors where we can have circularity intervention in Oman, and what are the potential jobs, circularity jobs within these sectors. And also what we are trying to do is to measure the circularity percentage in Oman economy. And that would help us really like to set a target for the country, where we are today and where we want to move in the near or the long-term future. I think the mindset is already happening. I think what is needs to deal with is the how. How are we going to do it? And this is what we are really trying to do. I can see this mindset, the shift in the mindset, not only in the government, but also in the industries. We work closely with the industries in Oman, so we can together figure out the policy framework and the roadmap for the circular economy in Oman. Although we try to look at the global practices in circular economy, these are not necessarily going to be applicable to the context of Oman. I think the people in Oman themselves, they know what works, what doesn't work. But what we need to work together. And this is what we are trying to do through this project.
Mohab, when talking about the future of Oman, of course, one thing that is always brought up, our vision, Oman Vision 2040. How does circular economy fall into that and play a part in that?
Okay, so obviously for everybody in Oman, whether you're in the government sector or the private sector, Oman Vision 2040 is our North Star. This is what we aim to achieve in 2040. Now, if you take a step back and look at the Oman Vision 2040, it is an ESG document, right? It talks about the environment, it talks about, at the heart of it is transitioning to a circular economy, a green economy. It talks about responsible resource extraction and production, responsible consumption. For the social aspect, it talks about good education, good health, economic prosperity, the livelihoods of people. And the G part, the governance part, it talks about a flexible and transparent government. So it is an ESG document, and at the heart of it is circular economy. So we are moving, towards circular economy, and you see that throughout our a lot of aspects in our life, and so Oman is actually leading the way when it comes to circular economy in the GCC and in the Middle East. I think we are the first country to come up with, have this framework, circularity gap report, and I know that other GCC countries are going to follow in our footsteps in the next few years, inshallah.
Aisha, care to expand on that?
Yes, and of course, the Ministry of the Economy is currently working on a circularity gap report, as Dr. Mohab mentioned, and this is an indication that where we see that the environmental issues are coming at the heart of the economic development and planning in the country. We have started this year working on circular gap report, where we measure the gap in the circularity in Oman. In a way, we measure how much of a secondary material is going back to the economy in the country. And we are trying to put forward the baseline for the circular economy in Oman in a data-driven basis. So that is an indication where we are really ahead. And this circular gap report is one of the first in the Middle East.
Fantastic. With this trajectory and where we're headed right now, where do you see Oman in just a few years, 5 to 10 years?
Well, when we talk about from a circular economy perspective, since this is the topic of the podcast, right now the global average is less than 7%. Nobody's asking the world to move to 100% circular economy. It's not possible, it's not practical. But what if we can move the needle to 10%, 15%, 20%? I mean, I'm looking forward to knowing Oman's circular economy, a gap. So after that, we can set realistic targets. Okay, let's increase it by 2% over 5 years, 4% over 10 years. And I'd like to see these measurable targets that we are moving towards.
Dr. Aisha?
Yes. What I would hope, and I will try my best in our project in circular economy, is really to support the small and medium enterprises to have their intervention into the market to develop new industries and new businesses in the circular economy, be it in the building, be it in not really infrastructure, but maybe in consuming the material. We say the furniture, the clothing, the way we consume the material. It is actually like an opportunity in there. We consume, but there are also other opportunities that comes with it. And also in supporting the young people with their innovation at the university level or even at the school level. These young people really have sparking ideas when it comes to anything. And they need to be supported where they see that their ideas are not only something as remains as a research, but it has a support to be something commercial, so they can see it and they can see, a return on their investment, their time, their research, and then you see it as a real life investment.
Mohab, one final message to our viewers and listeners for the Duqm Now podcast. Why should they move now?
Well, because if we don't move now, when? Right now is the time. More than 100 billion tons of raw material extracted every year. That is not sustainable. That is, as the gentleman I mentioned earlier is said, is we're stealing from our kids and grandkids, and that is not a legacy that I want to leave behind personally.
One final message, Aisha.
My message would be circular economy. Maybe when we talk about it, we think about the environmental dimension of it. But from its title, it is really about the economy. For Oman and for Vision 2040, it's really about creating jobs, supporting small, medium enterprises, supporting innovation, and eventually really supporting the wider target of economic diversification. So it's there are a lot of opportunities ahead.
Inshallah. Thank you both very much for this and for your time. Let's catch up again in a few years, circle back and see where we stand. Thank you so much. Now we've heard how circular economy isn't just a buzzword or a slogan. Circular economy is a lot more. It's not just protecting the environment, it's also bringing economic benefit, job opportunities, economic diversification, and so much more to the Sultanate of Oman. And as you can see, there is a move and a shift towards that. It is time for us all to look at this seriously and to make the changes we have to right now. That was Dr. Mohab Al Hinai of BIA and Dr Aisha Al Sarihi of the Ministry of Economy. I'm Dr Aisha Al Sarihi, and you can find this podcast on all podcast platforms and YouTube. Thank you for listening.